Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda, the minutes for October 21 and October 28th. Have you reviewed the minutes, Rick?
Yep.
Okay. I've reviewed the minutes. I think they're fine. I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes for October 21st. All in favor? We have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Make a motion that we accept the minutes for October 28th.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We have the warrants to approve. I'll make a motion that we accept the payroll warrant, $87,923. The payroll deduction warrant for $24,787, and the vendor warrant for $210,629. Second.
Second that.
All in favor?
Your reading here is 211.
Yep.
You stated 210.
Excuse me?
You stated 210, but yet
It
it
is
says
211.
211.
It's 211.
Yeah, okay. You had stated 210.
Oh, I did?
Yes.
Okay.
That's why we're here.
Okay, old business, the agreement with Community Action. Peter, Susan, come on up. Come on back. Come on.
There you go.
Yeah, this is a new program for you guys, right?
It's well, certainly an add-on to what we've been doing for about 25 or 30 years.
Okay, but this particular part of it is new.
Correct. Conway had been kind enough the last couple of years to provide some money to augment our fuel assistance program.
Right.
So we had some of the people, some of the families that live here in town who ran out of the fuel assistance and otherwise might have had a cold house. We were able to help them out.
Right, okay. Sue came in a couple of meetings back, talked to us about this. There's just some, the board is fully on board in terms of the principle of this, okay? It's just some of the mechanics that I want to get clear. All right, so you're looking for $30,000 from Conway that will go together with $30,000 from the Weatherization Assistance Program and WMECO to form the total of $60,000 per year?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
We traditionally get a lot of funding from the federal government. Some of that has dried up, but the utility funding with WMECO has stayed really quite robust through the Green Communities Act.
Okay.
I think the 60 is over the 3-year period, not the per year. When John said 60 per year, we're looking at 60 over a 3-year period?
No, it's per year.
No, it's per year.
Okay.
30 and 30.
Right.
Yeah,
Per year.
that's
For
per
the
year.
For the 10 houses.
Yeah, that's for the 10 houses in the first year.
Okay.
You're expecting 30 houses in total over 3 years.
That's when we did the calculations. That's what we based it on. Right now, there are about 40 houses that have traditionally been on fuel assistance each year. I think in order to make sure we're also serving Conway well, we talked to Sue some about making sure we do a little more outreach, make sure people in town do know that the services are available.
Okay, and when you decide on a house to make these repairs to these improvements, how does the money get spent? Is it half the money from this Weatherization Assistance Program and half the money from Conway that goes into that?
What we're hoping to do is use some of the Conway money to go a little deeper with some of the energy efficiency than we're allowed to with the WMECO, with the federal money. Right now, we're walking away from a lot of heating systems that are 25 years old. The good news is, the bad news is that they're going to last for another 25 years. They're just very inefficient. The funding with the utility companies is really quite generous, but it's designed to try to get kilowatt hour savings, not oil savings.
Okay.
So
yeah.
some of the things we'd be looking at, finding ways to replace some of that antiquated equipment that's in the houses.
Okay. So another part of this, okay, you're looking for $30,000 a year to be paid on the 1st of December each year. And then at the end of this 3 years, if there's money left, we get it back. What if in the first year you do 5 houses and there's $15,000 sitting there from from our initial first year funding?
I'm guessing if this issue came up, it might be more of an issue the second year. I think the first year is always the easiest year. That's the low-hanging fruit, the people who really need the services.
Okay,
I'm not overly concerned about it. Just to give you a little bit of a scope of what we've done each year, we've ended up spending about $3.5 million across our service territory, which is Hampshire and Franklin County. So we found that the demand is always there. The demand for clients, even though $3.5 million sounds like a lot of money, the demand for services has exceeded the money we have available to do work. This would really free up the ability to do the work in Conway and again, get some of the deeper energy retrofit stuff done that we just can't do with our regular programs. So I don't know if I really quite answered your question. Sometimes I...
well, again, what if after, let's just say, for instance, after the first year, there's 15,000 left from our funding. Would you then expect 30 from us for the second year, or 15?
Okay, I see what you're saying. I think it would be perfectly, I think we would do everything we can to target it, to spend it in the...
Spend it all.
Well, to spend it on, but to spend
Okay.
spend it in the 30 times.
Uh-huh.
I guess my question...
So
might
if we
be-
give it to you, you're gonna spend it, that's
Yes,
what you're telling me.
That's what I'm saying. My question might have been more if we spent 30 of it, we identified it really quickly, would there be an opportunity to dip into the next year's 30,000? But you don't have to answer that today. I think that's the more likely scenario.
Okay, so now it goes from 30 to maybe more than 30 if you identify more than 10 houses.
But
That's
you
what
can
you're telling me
say
in the
no.
first year.
But you can say that, absolutely.
Just to clarify for folks watching on TV and also in here, what we're proposing is to use the funds from the Guilford Trust. The Guilford Trust, as most people know, the quote that a lot of people know is, "For aiding such residents of said town of Conway and their families as may be in want or distress." So I don't, unfortunately, our treasurer's not here. I think the Guilford Trust presently is in the $800,000 range.
Yeah, it is.
And so we're looking to, as trustees, the 3 select board members of the trustees of the Guilford Trust, so we're proposing to use money from the Guilford Trust as trustees to fund this program. So it won't come out of the tax base, the taxpayers, it'll come from the trust.
Now, you're also saying here you'll give us an annual report?
Correct, yeah. I think what would make sense is to try to, since we're working with people who are of lower incomes, what we try to do is provide reports that give you the information you need without having anything identifiable, so you wouldn't necessarily be able to track it down to
Oh, yeah.
individual
No,
household.
No, we're not looking for anything identifiable, but certainly. Would it be possible for you to, as you do each house, just flip us an email and say, hey, we did a house in town and we spent this much money and this much came out of yours, just so we have more up-to-date information than just on an annual basis?
Sure, that would be absolutely fine.
Okay, okay. That way, throughout the year, we'll know how much money is being spent on the program.
I've talked to Sue some about unleashing my inner geek. I can give you approximated gallons of oil saved. We can turn that into carbon savings, anything like that you'd like to see. I must say I do kind of enjoy doing that.
Okay. As I say, the board agrees in principle with this, okay? What I'd like to do, Tom, if you could just run this by town council and ask him for his suggestions. We can sign it at our next meeting. But again, in principle, we've basically said we're in agreement with this.
Very
Okay.
small item on the second line. I'm sorry, I've read this a dozen times and I didn't catch it until today. Towards the end, it says excluding furnace replacements. I think that should be including, inclusive as
Yes,
exclusive.
right, okay.
Apologies, I'm sure you ran that by me many times and I just didn't pick it up.
Well, I think we were thinking of your earlier program, which excluded furnace replacement.
Right, right.
And essentially, you've given fuel assistance to approximately 40 households in Conway,
Correct.
and you're using those as kind of an idea that maybe those houses also need some tightening up in
That's
terms
right.
of...
I think as we look at the houses, some of the ones we might want to look to serve out are the ones who needed the money that was provided in the past years that ran out of services. I think that would be an obvious place for us to start.
Okay.
Just looking, I know that you'll be doing all the picking of the people that need this, and doing the repairs, and then giving us reports as to the savings and so forth, and the work that's been done. So as far as getting the word out to the Conway citizens, and, you know, who are want and need, besides the list that you have that is private and, you know, we don't get to see that, what other means is there to let other folks out that may not be on Jewel assistance to say, oh, gee, there's a program in Conway that is going to help me weatherize and save energy?
Actually, I'd be open to any suggestions you have. In all honesty, I don't think we've done a really great job marketing our program. We get a lot of people come to us. It could be we get as many people as we can handle, so we have not spent an awful lot of time marketing. The funding that's come in has not come with much fat in it to do any marketing, but just to do some real basic stuff. I gave Sue some flyers to hand out as she sees fit. I don't know if you have any energy days, if you have any events that might make sense for us to try to have one of my staff here to have a table. You must have a council on aging.
We do have council
Sure.
meeting.
We
Yeah.
work with a lot of the council on aging as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, so I think internally between town website, we can have our town administrator contact the council on aging, so you can assist in that, I'm sure you want to do that.
I'm willing to do anything that
Yeah,
needs to be done.
just the idea of making sure that
In
all
the
Conway
visitor-
citizens are aware of this, so that, you know, people don't say, what, I never heard about that, even though you.
I've also talked to Helen Baker, and she said I'd be welcome to sit down there at designated times to explain it to people and put that in the visitor, say,
Well, I think if you put it in the visitor, then most people will,
yeah,
you know, see
pick
it.
it up. The Visitor is a church publication, but it's basically our little newspaper.
And the link to the website, I think, is a great idea.
Yeah.
as well.
So we basically have to get the word out, and then the word is basically to contact you, and then you will do whatever paperwork's needed to put them in the hopper and see where.
At
it
any
goes.
point, I can run a query specific to Conway to see who might have signed up for the first time, so I can keep track of that.
Okay, great.
Now, do you go by federal criteria? Is there state criteria? What criteria?
The criteria we use is a state criteria of up to 60% of median income. To give you some idea what that is for a family of four, it's up to $61,664. If you look at the typical family that we're serving, the average income of somebody who received fuel assistance last year was $23,000. So even though that number I just threw out there sounds, that's not a small number.
Yeah.
That's an atypical household. That would still qualify, but most households are much lower income than that.
Okay, and for your audits, you're using state criteria?
We use, we have less of a computerized audit than some states do. We have basically a priority list, where the priority list is based upon some computer software. So we start at the top of the list, which gives us the biggest bang for the buck, the most energy savings for dollars spent, which would be air sealing, the attic insulation, going down the list from that. Every energy audit also includes some testing of the mechanical systems, testing of the heating systems, to see how efficient they are and make sure the houses are safe. We do a lot of combustion testing, a lot of carbon monoxide testing, building tightness testing.
Okay, so it's a combination of the improvements themselves as well as the income of the residents?
Right.
Okay.
But all work we do is done by private contractors who are fully insured. We inspect all work upon completion. All work is, building permits are taken out, all of that stuff.
Okay. All right. All right, again, we'll just run this by town council and see what his suggestions are for this agreement. And we'll get it to you at the next board meeting.
Very good.
Okay?
All right, I appreciate the chance.
Thanks for coming in, Peter.
Thank you.
Sue?
Yeah, thank you.
Get your name?
Nope, fine.
Next on the agenda is participation in Franklin County Initiative for Regional Excellence in Response. Bob and Ron, you have the floor.
They have a copy of it. I'll give you a quick rundown of it.
Looking for this one.
I can give you a quick rundown of it. At the last fire chiefs meeting I was at, there's a movement through the council of governments and the fire departments to try to regionalize our reporting systems so that we can share information from department to department and make our reporting systems easier to operate, easier to function. And that includes not only just amongst departments, but also our reporting that we have through the state of Massachusetts. So they're putting a grant together, and we've gotten prices in from several different companies. And one of the prices they told us was going to be about $785, an initial one-time charge per department for the setup of the system, and then roughly $100 to $120 a month maintenance from there on. Right now, every department in the county has, years ago when we started doing the state reporting system, picked out what we felt was best. Ours is an end-to-end, FirePoint end-to-end. Some are using Firehouse, some are using the other state programs. They all have to be approved by the state of Massachusetts, but they're provided by different companies, which can't collaborate together at all in here. So what now, when we have a run, dispatch logs in a run for the fire department or the ambulance, or the police, I guess you're going to do it too, I think. They type it out on the sheet, and after the incident's over, they fax us a copy of the run sheet with times and incident what took place and times that everybody arrived and left and what took place and all that stuff. And then I hand to Ron, does our state reporting system for the fire service, what we have to do, mandated by law. And he has to take that sheet and pick off all the information off the sheet he needs and to get into our FirePoint program. And whereas if we all were on basically the same system, is when they push the go button to send their information to Conway, it would go right directly to his reporting computer. So when he goes to do his reporting, he pushes the on button for the reporting, and there's his whole information already entered on the sheet for him, which is going to save him an enormous amount of time to start with. And when we have interactive calls where Conway has to go to other towns, or other towns have to come to Conway to assist us in the mutual aid program, Ron has to try to chase down incident numbers from the other towns, or they have to chase down us to try to get our incident numbers. Just all would be right there on the computer.
Okay.
There's 12 of them.
So we'll get
So,
better information faster, and it'll
right.
save us money.
The grant is going to try to pay for the initial setup of all the departments that want to join.
Mhm.
And we felt that I felt this is of interest for Conway, so at least look into it. Nothing's set in stone yet, but get the ball rolling to see if they can get the grant. Pretty sure they can get the grant. They got some avenue for getting the grant, and the council of governments is going to run the program for us. At least get it all set up for all towns. They're going to do the bid procurements and all the stuff for the different suppliers. And all the fire chiefs are at this meeting. There's probably 30 some odd of us. All felt it was a great idea.
Okay.
So, but they wanted to come back to us to discuss it with the select board, to get their good graces for the town of Conway to notify through Tom that we are interested in, and we would like to be on the list of the towns to do it.
Okay, so on your recommendation, I'll make a motion that we participate in the Franklin County Initiative for Regional Excellence in Response to save us some money and to get us some better information faster. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Ron. Next item, we just have some items on the special town meeting warrant that are relevant to Bob and Ron. We're going to put articles on the warrant that basically say that we will request legislation allowing Bob Baker to serve as fire chief until age 66, and we will request legislation allowing Ron Hawks to serve on the fire department until age 67.
That doesn't really coincide with the letter that you approved.
Yeah, actually, you're gonna be on until longer than that, until January.
January, right.
Yeah, right, okay. Yeah, we'll,
January 15, 15,
of
wasn't it?
15,
Yeah.
right. All right, so we'll change the wording in that, but basically, it's right after your 66th birthday. All right,
Well,
and that way,
I talked to her, and I don't, just only, like I talked to other chiefs in the county that are over 65 too. And several of them said they acted like, I heard that one town had asked their legislators for special permission. And these other towns said that they just, that the Selectmen just voted. They didn't think it had gone up to town legislation, so
from what I understand, it's the safest way for us to do it, in terms of allowing you to work to that time and for the town to be
Well, see,
relieved.
Ron and I originally, we both basically started in the fire department pretty close to the same amount of time. And we've always joked over the years, no, when we're going to retire, we're going to do it together. Hopefully. If we
Well,
both buy them.
I don't know, you always told me I can't retire.
That's
until
right,
you
I'm
do.
not letting him retire. You can tell me what's retiring now. I'm not ready yet, so. We work great as
But
a team together.
I guess my only question is there something in the law that says we have to retire at that age?
I think Tom has.
Tom has done
Do you
some
have
research on
information
that.
to share on.
Tom, do you have a comment on that?
Yeah, the age of 65 is pretty clear in the law for public safety officials, and that's all public safety officials, police, and everyone. And that's why often towns will add years on through special legislation in order to allow people who are currently serving to continue serving, and to make sure that things run smoothly when people hit 65. It's something that, as much as we might want, can't really be done by the local select board because it is in the Mass General laws.
So basically, it's gotta go through like the town meeting or.
And the town meeting
or
has to request
legislature.
our local representatives to do that, and then it takes a few months for that to kick in. But as long as that's in process, I think we'll be covered.
Okay.
All right. Any questions on that?
That was, you said that you had me here at age 67 for me?
So that should be 68 for you?
Wow,
For-
I'll be 67 in March.
In January, yes, well,
That'll be before the meeting,
That would be-
before
Okay,
town meeting.
We'll get the wording right on these and make sure that Tom will check with you on the ages and
Okay.
make sure that you guys do it together, okay?
Yeah, no, just to double check, you guys getting along okay?
Sure,
I
until
mean,
you
I
tell
don't know if
you.
we're gonna like extend this, if you guys you're getting along okay?
Oh, no problem.
All right, okay, just
We
double
have no
check it.
problem.
We crack each other quite
All
frequently.
right, all right.
Yeah.
So you keep him in line?
Friendly
We're
bird.
still friends.
Well, that's good.
So I'm curious, so you're the chief, and what is your rank?
Deputy chief.
Deputy chief, and are there two deputy chiefs?
Yes.
So Adam Baker is the other
Adam's
one.
the other deputy.
And then what are the other, what's the other hierarchy?
Two captains, two
Two
lieutenants.
captains, two lieutenants.
And who are the two captains?
Darryl Chase?
No, not
Daryl's
Daryl.
resigned.
Daryl resigned.
Oh, he did?
Oh, Bob Benson, I got
Bob
it.
Benson
Benson
and Chris Herman.
Chris
They're
Herman.
captains.
And then the lieutenants, or?
Lieutenants are Matt Boyden and
Joe
Joe
Cramper.
Cramper.
Right. All right, great.
Okay. Okay, very good. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Ron, thanks for coming in.
You're right.
Yeah, we have members of the finance committee here. You guys want to go over the,
That'd be great.
some of the warrant items on the special town meeting warrant? Is there anything, any questions you have on any?
I know, I haven't seen the warrant, I just have a list on emailed me.
That's the first I've seen it.
I've
Okay.
never seen it. Seen the,
Do you guys have any questions on it?
I don't have a copy of it.
Why don't you
I've
just-
never had a
They
copy.
have to look at it.
Yeah.
Why don't you
Yes.
quickly sort of just run through and explain them?
More chronologic. We're information gathering for the rest of the finance committee.
Oh,
good.
Okay, when do you guys meet next?
Monday.
Okay, maybe you should look over this at your meeting.
Well, what we wanted to
How
hear
much
is just the logic of each one,
information? Exactly. Yeah,
because
let's-
otherwise it's hard for us to
Exactly.
support or not support an article if we don't
Yes.
know why it's there.
Absolutely, I agree. Hey, do we have any more copies of warrant article, Tom? So,
We will soon.
great.
I have a
All
couple
right,
questions.
let's,
anyway.
while he's getting that, Ron, why don't you come up and tell us about the bridge on North Poland?
If Ron's here, let's talk about some of those as well.
Well, it's not good.
Okay,
The state wants to close it. They did their inspection, their 2-year inspection. I don't remember just when it was, because I don't have a report on it. But when they did it, they saw enough damage where they wanted a rating, and a firm come in to rate the bridge, and they rated it at 0.
okay, and when did they do this? Do we know?
Let's see, when did they do it? I have the report of the,
Okay.
there's no date on it. So
Okay.
I don't know when the rating report was done. I don't know when.
Okay, so are they telling us the bridge is unsafe?
Yes.
Okay, what remedial action do they recommend?
Well, I've been dealing with Mass DOT, and he's made some recommendations of things that we may be able to do to ease the people in Boston. And what I've done now is, he recommended the company that did the grading, Joseph Gill Civil Engineers. Yeah, I contacted them. He said they'd probably, because they already know the bridge, and they've given me some ideas of what we can do, but they're putting together a proposal for me. Because it's gonna have to be done by an engineering firm, what we do to it,
Okay,
so that they can re-rate it and make sure that it's not gonna be but this is only a temporary fix.
okay, what kind of a time frame are we working with here?
When I last time I talked to him today, he's hoping that at least we can get a minimum of 30 days to get the repairs done.
Okay, now, DOT knows that we've got this rating on the bridge and that we want to do something about it, correct? Okay, so what's their timetable in terms of?
I can't answer that because it comes from Boston, and he can't answer for what Boston's gonna do. He said there's supposed to be a letter coming out Wednesday, and in the letter it could say close the bridge immediately. Or it could say with repairs, if work is being done on it, then they'll give us 30 days to complete that.
Okay, so we don't know what's going to happen here.
Don't know what's gonna happen.
Is there anybody we can contact to find out?
The guy I've been talking to says it's all somebody in Boston. He thinks that now that we're moving ahead, that I'm talking to the engineers and stuff, that may actually have, he keeps letting them know what's going on, so he thinks that may, persuade him to give us a little time to correct. It's kind of
Okay.
trying to get answers out of him.
Yeah, I would expect that we would get more information from them and some sort of a criteria for fixing the bridge, if it's in that bad a shape, and be given some time to do that.
So, first of all, do we have the inspection report?
No,
We don't have it?
no.
This is just a verbal from them?
They,
Okay.
Yes, all we've gotten is the verbal and a notice that we're expecting a letter mandating closure. But it is important to note that this is only a temporary fix that we're proposing right now. We would have to do the full fix probably within a year.
Okay, well, I think it's important that we need to do whatever we have to
Yeah.
keep the bridge open.
Of course.
Okay, so
Yeah.
let's
Yeah,
go
exactly.
on that.
Though this would just be a temporary fix, so it's an easier fix, we can probably do it in-house.
Mhm,
But I mean, the engineering, they have to, it has to be engineered
right,
to say that it will make it safe. And I did ask the guy from Joseph Gill, ballpark. He said he's gonna have a proposal for me at the end of the day tomorrow, but he's talking in the $5,000 range is what he thought, just for the engineering.
just for the engineering, okay. Do we have any idea what the repairs would cost?
By the sounds of it, I don't think it's gonna be crazy, because it's basically cribbing underneath between the uprights of the cement and the bridge deck itself. So if anything fails, it's gonna be on the cribbing.
Okay,
So
do we have a range of cost for that?
I haven't got any price on cribbing. I mean, they're talking 12 by 12, probably 3 feet long, probably maybe 24 or 30 of them. So I can't imagine it'd be more than a couple $1,000s for the,
So it'll
materials.
cost 5,000 for the engineering and a couple of thousand to fix the bridge?
I'm not positive, I may be all off on
We don't know
it.
yet. So
But
obviously,
we can do the work.
Mhm, yeah.
And that's what the engineering company's trying to, because they had other, well, when the Mass DOT guy was here, he brought me a couple pictures of what he was thinking. That's like what the cribbing would be to
Right.
support it on one end, but then the other end of the bridge was, he didn't know whether we could do the cribbing, so he was thinking something like these L brackets.
Okay,
But all that stuff would have to be engineered, and if we got into that, we'd probably have to hire a contractor to,
right.
you know,
Mhm.
put them in, but he's trying to, the engineer's trying to do it so we can do it in-house, and it would be the fastest, because then we wouldn't have to rely on anybody else to schedule it.
Okay, let's make sure we're in constant contact with DOT so that they know that we want to take remedial action on this as soon as we possibly can.
They know.
Okay.
I've been making sure of that. I think I talked to him 3 times today.
Okay,
So looking down the road, so obviously this is our bridge, therefore we will pay to have it fixed. For the long-term fix, those could be Chapter 90 monies, I take it.
Normally, the Mass DOT funds the repairs of bridges, or replacement of bridges.
Oh, they do all our bridges, if they need repairs or
And it was,
paid for by Mass DOT?
it was
Okay.
on the schedule to be replaced. And when they did the other bridge, this is what the Mass DOT guy told me. When they did the other bridge up the road from that, it was scheduled to be done at the same time, and I think the first bridge was supposed to be done too. But because of the funding, they had to take it out. And he says it doesn't look good for being replaced as far as the funding goes. So I don't know how we'll deal with the problem, because it's just a major rust in the beams.
okay. All right, so you have that in hand, you get that
Yes.
under control.
Yep.
All right, the next item you have is the laborer for the highway department.
Yep. Well, when Bob left, I took his position,
Mhm.
and I'm now working supervisor, but labor is needed, because now I'm actually having more administrative stuff that I'm doing. And I wasn't really, when I first took the job, I wasn't expecting to have as much as I have, and some of it's because of, well, we've been doing easements on roadways, town easements and stuff, so I've been spending an awful lot of time with that stuff to try to get that straightened out. And so my time is not, I still working with the guys, but I'm not having as much time as I would like. And this summer we had 2 part-timers, and that worked out real good, but now they're both gone. And so it just kind of would help me a lot I'm not looking for a laborer or truck driver, I'm just looking for a laborer, somebody that, you know, doesn't have, a lot lower pay for somebody just to do some of the things that don't need to be driving a truck or whatever for. And then also help out in the wintertime, having somebody there plowing snow with a pickup or a non-CDL truck.
Now, you have a recommendation for that position, somebody who's worked with you?
I do, I just laid him off. He was summer help, and David Smith, excellent worker, very happy with the performance I got out of him. And
So you want to bring him into this position on a full-time basis?
if that's possible,
Okay. Okay, how does it look for your budget to do that?
I'm pretty sure that I won't have any trouble with that. I have, in my budget, I have temporary employee time on my winter budget. I don't know, maybe I can't do it that way, but I have rentals that, since we got the excavator, that was put in my budget because I wasn't sure whether we were getting, and there's $10,000 there, and at $12 an hour for 6 months, it comes out to about $12,000, $12,500.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm pretty
You could
close.
make it between now and the next annual town meeting,
Yeah.
if we did this? Okay.
Until July, yeah.
All right. Okay, on the, I'll make a motion that on the recommendation of the highway superintendent, that we add a laborer position to the highway department in accordance with the criteria that Ron Sweet has given us. I have a second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Ron.
Again, having seen David at work, it'd be nice to have him on board. He's very, very good worker.
He is
Appreciate it.
excellent.
It's hard
He's
to,
also had 2 years of auto mechanic schooling, so, you know, as far as, you know, maintenance stuff, it's kind of a
Okay.
good little plus there.
Good.
it's hard to find good help, so that's
Yeah, it is.
good, great.
Okay.
Good,
You
keep up
you
the
may
good
want
work.
to, you may want to stay in
Yeah, I
in case there
figured.
are some questions. Okay, have you guys had a chance to look over the warrant? Okay, what questions do you have?
Oh, I'm gonna start go all the way down. Hey, you go for one. So they didn't, Article 1 is for an audit. They didn't
Yes.
carry over any of the balance from last year.
No, actually, when we were doing budget discussions for last year, that was one of the, when we got that big jump in the school budget, we looked everywhere. We rated his department, and this is one area where we thought, wait a minute, we've had, I think, 3 years of audits, we don't need another audit. That was before we put 2 and 2 together about if we are gonna go out for a bond for our highway garage. We didn't think that we would need to have an audit for fiscal year 13. So that was our thinking we were saving money, but not realizing that we would need an audit for that purpose. So now we're looking to have that audit done. It'll go out for
Okay.
bond for the highway garage. It's a requirement,
I'm going through the same thing.
yeah, yeah. So,
But, yeah, they're taking it every other year from us. It's kind of funny. It's a requirement.
oh, for bonding?
It's
So-
fine. They didn't do them last year.
Did you bond the year that, I mean, did you get the audit the year you're bonding? Typically, they want an audit before you get your bond rating.
Well, we're just looking at bonding next year, but we don't audit fiscal.
Well, we do have a well-qualified, so do we need to do a fiscal year 13?
Well, no, I'm not, don't do it on my recommendation. If your bond
Okay.
council say
Well,
do
if
it,
you-
then
I
you do
would
it.
have
I
an
mean,
audit
that's what
ready.
they say.
I would have an audit
Yeah.
ready. for
Okay,
fiscal
that's our
council.
rationale for that. Okay, yep. Next
And-
question? Yeah, go ahead.
If I may add, we are looking into options and the details of this. One of the options we're looking at would actually be to try to get RDA funding. And
That'll require an annual audit until you have what, a certain percentage of it paid down.
No,
it-
Yeah.
we have an RDA right now. We're doing every other year.
Yeah, then how long have you had it?
2005.
Yeah, you probably have enough percentage of it paid down.
No, never
Lincoln
done more
has
than
to
every
do
other
one every
year.
year.
What sort of year?
Rural development.
we're still looking into it.
Yeah, yeah. No, we were just looking into one too. I've been through that process. Yeah, find out maybe it's changed, but we haven't had it plowing every year. They like to come out and do the ADA audit on this stuff.
Next
So the
next
used
question.
plow truck operating because that's
What's
how I
that?
have to do it? The used plow truck.
I mean,
It says
Article
allocate
2.
highway operating funds to a used plow
Right.
truck. So you have current operating funds that you would do that?
Yeah, I've been taking it out of my repair budget. Basically, what it's to do is to offset, because my idea is to, the new trucks that we can't work on. So I'm looking to have part of my fleet with older trucks, something that when it breaks, we can fix it. And it also give us a spare truck when something breaks. We're not down a truck all the time, you know. And especially the way the new trucks with all the electronics in it and stuff. We have issues when something happens, the truck goes down, there's nothing we can do except for send it out to have somebody fix
What's
it.
the latest model year?
Yeah, so Ron, why don't you tell us what you have in your fleet for plowing? So,
All right, for my plow trucks, big plow trucks, I have a 98 Ford, I have an 04 International, and a 07 International. The 98, there's no rust on it or anything, so I have no intentions of getting rid of that truck. We have to put a motor in it, spend $10,000-15,000. It's way worth it for me to keep that truck going. I mean, as long as it's not rusted out, there's no reason to get rid of it. It's actually the best truck we have in our fleet. The 03 has some computer stuff, but is the truck, not everything's run by the computer. So that one's marginal as far as being able to repair. The 07, when that truck, something happens to that truck, there's nothing I can do. We don't have the equipment to test it or anything like that. So my plan is to bring in an older model truck, 90s, pre-2003 basically, find a used one that's not rotted, and kind of rehab it and have that. But always having a, you know, adding a truck to the fleet, it's not really necessarily to add another truck to the fleet, but it's to, so we can continue on without having to buy another new truck. And the new trucks are getting somewhere to $160,000 to $180,000. So I mean, we can spend a fair amount of money in an older truck without still not costing the town a lot of money.
So this would purchase the used one? Or is this purchase and some repair work on it?
Probably just purchase it,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm not even sure at this point, because we would have to try to find something that's decent. I mean, I've looked around, I found a few, you know, a couple months ago. That's how this all kind of was coming about.
Do you have the money in your budget to put money into it? And what about the plow and stuff? Would that be an additional expenditure?
That would probably be, I'd make sure that that came with it, you know, more than likely. And actually, the other thing that I'm looking to do, if I do, you know, was able to do this, is would like to buy a truck with a wing plow, which would cut down a lot on our plowing time.
have you shopped? Is there anything out there in that price range? at this
There
point?
was a couple months ago. I mean, we're coming into winter now, so
Yeah,
there's a chance that this may not happen until spring or, you know, summertime. I mean, I'm not gonna just go out and buy the first thing I can find if it's, I wanna make sure, the rust is the biggest issue.
Yeah.
Because other than that, most everything mechanical is fixable. But I did find a decent truck for just under 25 with all the plows and everything. And I couldn't find any rust on the truck, and it ran good. It was like, could put it right in service.
Wow.
So I know
That's-
they're out there. Well, most people, they're getting old, and everybody seems to think they need new. And I personally, I'm not that way, because I want to be able to fix it. I mean, our time spent fixing something's better than $100 at a shop that you spend and you don't know.
So if you have this truck, so does it mean that so we'd have 4 trucks instead of 3?
Correct.
And ideally, all 4 would be roadable, and one goes down,
Yes.
you'll have 3.
Really what I would do is have one, so for snow removal, so I wouldn't have the sander in the truck. So we'd have 2 trucks without sanders in the back for snow removal, like when we're cleaning up the streets here and stuff.
So during a major snowstorm, you'd be using all 4 trucks?
No.
Or you'd be using 3?
Just 3.
Would you alternate the use of it so that you put hours on rest trucks?
Probably not. Probably, because if we bought one with a wing plow, then we'd probably stay for winter, and that would get used. But the other truck would get used for other things other than plowing or
It doesn't
sanding.
sound like a bad idea to me, but, you know, if you said, go out, we wanna go out and buy a brand new one, not a spare, I'd say, well,
Yeah,
that's a
exactly.
bad idea, but if you feel competent and your people are competent in keeping this thing roadable,
Well, one thing I'm hoping is that once I get my new highway garage, where I can actually have a decent place to work on things.
that's a ways off though.
It's not that far out.
Not that far
We're getting
out.
there.
Well, depends.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know, I've
So-
spent some time going up to the hire garage, and whenever I see Ron and his assistants working on a truck, I think, ooh, this is good stuff. Because again, we have the capabilities.
Is there a reason that we would take this out of free cash and not out of the highway stabilization fund?
Well, if you look at the next one,
I know the next one's there too, but what's the balance in the highway stabilization fund?
So actually, if I had that,
I feel a lot
Capital
better if it came
stabilization.
that way, but, I mean, I'm
actually,
just
we're in
trying to work
fine
it.
shape because we didn't buy the 40,000 vehicle for fire that we said, no way, Jose, so I don't have it with me. I think
Did we take money out of stabilization? Did we appropriate money out of stabilization for the 40,000?
Capital stabilization,
For fire
it was in
truck you
that
were just talking about?
Excel spreadsheet that you had made, so that was.
Yeah, but I
also
have an old one. Somebody's
Yeah.
gotta have a newer
So,
one than I
It
have.
wasn't-
actually,
it
the question
wasn't,
is, was
yeah,
it
voted on.
appropriated out of stabilization?
wasn't.
So there was nothing voted out of stabilization,
Other than the little mini excavator, I think that's the only thing that came out of that fund.
So actually, the expenditures were less than what was in the spreadsheet, because originally we had one backhoe for 160 or something, and then we ended up changing that with Ron's recommendation. We ended up spending 100 and
80 something.
whatever, we didn't spend quite as much.
Right.
I don't know if this is what was voted, that's why my numbers are all still written in, because I didn't touch it up, so I don't know if those are even the balances, but it used to be that the balance was, well, I don't know, did we vote 80 in? No, we voted 80 out, this has a Caterpillar, this is a 2014 expenditure, but I don't think that was done, we did it in the excavator instead.
Yeah, we've got to get that up
Last
to
year we
date.
put something in every stabilization.
Well, money went in, but was the
Yeah, yeah, we did.
100, was it 100?
Yep.
That's why this is accurate.
all right, well, if finance has another recommendation for that, let us know. What other questions do you have?
So what
And then,
is,
and number three is to do partial funding.
On a trade, well, what I want to do is trade in
you trading a dumper for a pickup,
the small
small dumper?
small dumper that we've had a lot of trouble with. It cost us a lot of money. It's kind of impractical for what we need it for, and I'm actually putting together the ambulance, the old ambulance chassis, which will basically be taking the place of that one,
So this is to purchase
a pickup.
a pickup truck
To replace the Chevy.
Replace this dump truck.
and
So-
to, if I'm confused by the word partial, are you using funds from somewhere else in this process?
Yes.
There's additional funding for
Is
this?
trade-in is the additional
I will be
funds?
trading in.
Okay, yeah, you don't want to say it that way. It's to purchase this vehicle, and then you have to also put in the vote that you're going to dispose of the other one.
Okay.
Because if you don't do
I-
that, there's no authorization
haven't
to
seen it, so-
trade it in. Yeah, you want to put in that it's a purchase of this vehicle and a disposal of the other. You don't have to say partial funding. That's what
Okay.
confused me, because it makes it sound like there's another fund somewhere
have a
that's paying
question.
part of that.
I have a question
You don't
for
want to do that.
If it's written that way, can that truck be sold outright without a trade-in, and that money goes towards the truck?
No, if you sell the truck, it goes into general fund.
Even if
Miscellaneous
it's
revenue.
voted to sell it for, okay, I'm just asking.
No.
Okay.
You sell town equipment, it has to go into the general fund
Right, so yeah, you want to vote to purchase
and trade.
a pickup truck, and you want to vote to dispose of. Don't even say how. It could be a sale, it could be, but the sale wouldn't help you, but you want to say dispose of, and then you can trade it in. And that will allow you then their ability
The
to
funds.
get rid of that vehicle, and then if they do a trade-in, then those funds can apply directly towards that, but that's because it's an internal transaction, and don't have money coming to the town.
Okay, that's.
Yeah, you definitely wanna vote to dispose of the old vehicle,
Okay.
because otherwise you,
Don't get a check.
yeah, you don't wanna
Don't
check.
bring a check to the town.
You wanna,
Trade in.
yeah.
Okay, Finance Committee can recommend other language on that.
Okay.
Other questions?
So Article 4, so
I don't
you,
even know what this was about.
what
I
do you,
do.
This is about the accrued vacation and sick hours that some of our employees have that
I've
we
never worked
need
yet.
to fund.
I have a
why do we
question.
need to fund it all at once?
Already-
Because that's Jan's recommendation on this. We'll put it in an account, and we'll have it there for when they want to trade in their vacation time, sick hours. Tom?
Yeah, it's the treasurer's intention to pay this off as quickly as possible, to get it off the town's liability and to clean up her accounts. She has somewhat unenthusiastically agreed to look at paying it off over several years if that's what the employee wants. But she really wants to clean up this liability, which we currently have.
Well, it's not up to her, right? It's up to the employees.
Well, let me just ask a question here, maybe to jump in before we get there.
The select board did vote to pay out.
This is for a specific employee or employees
It's a
who are,
number. It's a
A
number.
number.
who are actually taking this time now and want to be paid? Or this is,
No,
you're
they-
just saying this is a future unfunded liability?
The future unfunded loan.
Correct.
It won't be unfunded anymore because this is what
Leave
we want
time.
to fund it.
It-
Yeah, I've just
it-
never heard of doing that.
it
Putting
came
in an
about-
account like
You're
that.
not supposed to do that. It's actually,
Yeah, kind of strange.
there's Mass General Law just established that you can establish a trust for this future uncompensated leave plans and leave time, like we call them buyouts, basically. Where people have that sick time or vacation time on the books. And if you establish a trust fund and you just set it up and it gets interest and keeps its interest, you can also do it as stabilization, because that's also considered a trust. It also keeps its interest. I don't know what the employees have decided, if they want to take it on retirement or, I mean, I don't see where it's a.
No, it's gonna be
You don't have
over,
it?
it's gonna be over a 3-year period.
But it's also an ongoing thing. Every week you've got more.
No,
Yeah.
it stopped
No.
accumulating.
Oh, I understand, you take a snapshot here somewhere, right?
This is as a result of the new personnel policy that came in July 1st, which no longer allows the kind of
I
accrual
see.
that happened in the
I
past.
got you.
It
Well, that
changed
makes
the
sense.
rules.
Mhm.
Yes.
So this is the past.
So this is town,
This is to clean
Determined,
up
not
past
countable.
situations
Yes.
right now.
okay.
And is
So it's
there?
not, it's not ongoing anymore.
Right.
We can't mention names, of course.
No,
I think
no,
it's
no, no,
five-
I'm not looking for
is it
any
5
information.
employees, I think it's 5
Right.
employees, one very large, and
96.
others.
So it's a
Not so
matter
large.
of, I mean, it
This is
seems
one
like,
time.
again, we
Yeah,
probably.
I would be very hesitant to take current free cash and fund the whole liability up front if you're not expecting to have it come in this fiscal year, only because you're really tying up current funds for quite a lengthy period of time in the hope that funds that you could end up needing.
So we have, looks like we're gonna have the cash this
Well,
year.
according to this warrant, she figured out you would be spending, if you spend everything on this warrant, you're spending 272,000 out of 306.
No,
You're
no,
gonna-
578.
578.
Leaves you 306.
Right, but if you look back on our historical, what we've been doing with free cash, that's gonna be cutting back on some of the things. I don't know, I just seems to fund these up front this way.
You included-
Large chunks of money in the fall. It's a very early time to be spending
It is, 'cause you don't know what you
half
have
your free
coming up.
cash.
Well, one of the discussions might be,
A lot of-
again, this was discovered when,
Yeah.
actually, one of our employees retired, and it's like, what? We owe all of this? And it was
Oh,
a
yeah.
chunk of money. So we're
Yeah,
trying
trying
to
to
be
figure it out.
fiscally
No, I
responsible,
understand.
saying, we don't want one of our employees who presently has 48, whatever it's a large number, to say, oh, I'm retiring this year, and then it's like, whoa, we gotta come
Oh,
up with
no,
48.
no, I understand the impetus. I just
So-
haven't seen it, so I
Well,
was
so in
trying to sort of
effect,
figure it
one
out.
could think of it as you're gonna pull that from free cash, so we may wanna think about some of these other things. not spending some of these other.
Well, that's why we're questioning, we just wanna understand the logic of all of them, we're not making any decision tonight, we're
Yeah.
just running,
Discussions, yeah.
ruminating, and then
Right,
we're gonna
yeah.
go off as the finance committee and have a discussion, and we'll give you our opinion, and then
So
we'll do
from
what
a-
you want.
So from a timing standpoint, I mean, you know, we've known this for a while, we've done the numbers, we've verified them and all that sort of stuff, so we know it's a liability, and we're thinking, okay,
Yeah.
let's
Right.
get this liability off, because we started from scratch on July 1st, and we're tracking internally. Before it was like everybody
Yeah.
kept their own numbers, and now we keep them centrally, so that's a good thing. So now it's like, okay, let's clean this up. The other thing is if we just kept these, especially that one, let's say, on the books, then, you know, every year that COLA increases the number of hours, the amount, so we just wanna
Oh, no, I'm just trying to,
put it aside,
understand.
the deal is, that's your money, and then either we give you that over 3 years, whatever.
so we'll,
Did you
So how
talk
is
to
it
the accountant?
characterized? Well, is it a stabilization fund? What is
Yes,
it?
we've had discussions with
It's
Joyce.
encumbered fund?
No, it would
But to be
be,
honest, I can't remember exactly what her recommendation was.
what kind of fund it would be.
Yeah.
That's, I'm not worried about that, because if they vote this, that's for the accountant to figure out.
Well, I'm worried about it.
Yeah.
Figure it out, you're an accountant.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
So
I
the other
wouldn't do
thing
that
is
book that
whether we
way.
do it at
Yeah.
the special town meeting,
Yeah, yeah.
or if we wait till,
Oh, I don't know, I'm not saying that, I'm not
May.
speaking for the whole
I-
board, I'm just
I-
throwing out,
My feeling is that I think a
Any
lot
kind
of
of
them
thing.
can wait until May when you have everybody, you know, you, special
Alright.
town meetings are
Yeah.
smaller groups.
Yeah.
But I don't
Yeah,
wanna
make
make
that-
any
make that-
recommendations,
I
but
know.
maybe.
No, not tonight,
Yeah,
no,
no,
after you guys
I'm
meet
just
as a
giving my
finance
opinion
committee,
that-
make the
yeah, it
recommendation.
might be a,
Paring down
More
some of this
people
and
to-
doing the
so I
immediate.
heard in terms of Article 5 that I was the one who bought the last copier.
Yeah,
You were the one
Article
who
five,
voted last time,
discussion, well,
It's been a
good
long
job, it's lasted a
time.
long time, good
It's
work.
been a long time.
I don't think we need to discuss Article.
Well, I
five.
think it's self-explanatory, so we can discuss it.
Article
Well, I just
six.
want one question for Tom. Which CVS model did you go with? You went with CVS, because I met them here that day when they were coming to meet you. And they said they were gonna try to sell you the same copy a week ago.
No, I actually have three different
Option.
options, well, three different.
Buying it outright or you leasing?
No, three different companies,
Oh, okay.
three entirely different plans. So I'm
You
still,
leasing, buying,
we're thinking of buying.
so if you buy, do you have to pay
Maintenance
for
plan.
copies afterwards?
Yeah, it was part of the
You have
maintenance
a
plan.
maintenance agreement
Right.
for the year and you
Per
pay, they should give you up to a certain amount of copies, and then if you go over that, then you pay a little
We
bit per
do now.
penny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty standard.
So redevelopment of the current town garage site, that was a thought I had last meeting, was what are gonna be the plans for that?
I guess the question I have is, how close are we needing to redevelop that site? That we need
well,
to,
I think this, as you can see, that's from the planning board.
Yeah,
And that was Diane Pohl and her gang came in and said, you know, we're looking at the big picture, all that sort of
Right,
stuff. And once we get our new town garage and get all that equipment down there, then this obviously makes sense to be our
oh, no, I
ambulance
understand.
fire. So they want to be proactive and have somebody do a site review to say that this has to happen for that site to remain our highway, our fire and ambulance.
So that's the plan, for that site to remain ambulance and fire.
That's the thought. Again, it gets back to Andrea Lamas, who always yells at me every time I go into her mother's establishment, you know, Conway needs to plan ahead, you know, we buy that piece of property, you know, we do that, and, you know, what about
Now
a
he's
big
putting this on
plan?
me.
What about like so this is part of that approach of saying we have to know whether that particular
It's
piece of property
self-explanatory.
can
Right.
be our fire ambulance
Or else-
without any problem.
I just think
So-
it's, I'm not in disagreement with the plan, I think that there's gonna obviously have to be something with that building
Right.
to be looked at. I just think you probably could do it at annual, because I'll tell you right now, you're not gonna even be in your new garage by
Do they have
May.
quotes?
I
Tom,
think Tom has
Just
been
call
waiting for quotes from the planning board. They were gonna do some work and get us a quote.
Okay, so they don't
That's
have an actual
That's
quote.
an estimate.
That's an estimate. So my
Yes,
concern would be that
those are
we
in
vote
red.
10,000
Yeah. On your
now,
page.
if they don't get quotes before the special town meeting. That we vote 10,000 now, and in spring they come back and say, okay, we need another 10,000 because now we
It's
have
12.
quotes. You know, so,
But again, from a timing standpoint, they're obviously proactive and want
Yeah.
to do this. But again, it's not like,
Yeah, no, I think we
I
just
don't
have
think
to,
it's an emergency, it just seems like special town meeting should be those things that you gotta address
yeah,
immediately.
timing is like, we
and-
gotta get this done, we can't
Yeah.
wait.
Can I
Well,
make-
there's
can I make
different
a
law.
comment?
Of course.
What if the highway garage doesn't get funded? Then what's that money gonna go to?
Well,
I mean, that's why I think that I think it's an idea that time will come if fund a new highway garage, which I suspect will happen because it's in dire need, and I don't think many people would argue that. But I just, you know, do
It's
we
great
need
to
to
be
do it right
proactive.
now? Right, I
Right.
think it's, everybody's just, but, you know, I think that's a discussion we can have with the committee,
Right,
whether we
right.
recommend it or not, I
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's arguing the need to fix something
Oh, I
out
don't
there.
either.
Other questions?
Is there a possible water and sewer development plan in the works that we need to fund $10,000?
Well, again, part of what,
We
Tom,
got
you
an
have-
estimate for something?
Yeah, this is a result of the open forum that the planning board had on the village center zoning. And a number of people expressed the opinion that we don't need the village center zoning because you can't redevelop downtown anyway, because there isn't sufficient water and sewer for any expansion of any use downtown. And until you get that, it's no use doing anything. So, the planning board took that to heart and recognized the essential validity of the point, while not conceding that it would be good to have a plan in place when development did become possible. But they did decide also to spearhead an attempt to find out what it would take for economic development to have a water and sewer system downtown. And lots of people came up with lots of different options. The technology's changed. There are any number of technological options out there. There are options for how many people would be served, the area, you know, the district. And so they decided to move forward and ask, at least for one quote from, I believe, Weston and Sampson, for what such a study would look like and how much it would cost.
Oh, I think, I think 8 and 9 are pretty self-explanatory, but we
Yeah.
talked about them. 10. Does anybody, well, there's a couple things with this. Does anybody know where we are in the tax rate setting process? Has the tax rate been set? Well, I'm assuming it hasn't, because you can't set the tax rate unless you vote this.
Right.
So you'll have to hold up setting the tax rate if you're gonna put this on the warrant,
Yes.
I assume.
Like, that cuts it really tight. What's the date of this meeting?
Well,
Well, Jan should know. She should be able to
Talking-
get the bills out anyway.
right, and that's just one of the
But-
considerations, questions I had, so obviously that's
You
gonna
have-
change the tax rates and time.
We did ask Lee, and she won't be setting that till early February, at the earliest.
Okay.
Oh, we're
There's
still semi.
That's right. I know
Otherwise, you
not
have
much
to do
time.
it. Right,
we're planning on the second half to
Does anybody know?
bump up taxes by $350.
Did they know the exact
Okay.
effect this would have, or pretty close?
we talked about in a meeting the other night. I forgot what I mean, do you remember, Roy, we were saying how much per household was like $100?
It was like $300.
300 for
No.
average house?
No, you're
Well-
talking what would be if we don't do it.
No, if you had a 10%, or approximately 10% on an increase of 10%, that was all being put on the second tax bill. Some of our houses, $3,500 in taxes, it'll be $350.
Otherwise, it would have been split if you had.
No,
not done
I
it.
get all that, I'm talking about the effect of doing
It
this.
takes it down another
Takes it down.
like 100 and 150.
Yeah.
It reduces the increase.
I guess
Yeah,
not.
the increase is $350 for the second half. I'd like to see 175 on this, to make it an even half.
I guess the two of us that work in town government
Mhm.
are just
Just
cringe
cringe.
when we
Yeah.
see articles like this.
Yeah.
It
And when we
is
had
the
our-
world's worst way
when we
to
had our
budget
nine-
and set tax rates.
Remember when we had
It's
our
gotta be.
$950,000 free cash year 2 years ago?
And we,
And we ended up, I think it
they
was
wanted to do
100,
a
we did
huge.
150, we did the same thing.
I
Back
fought that.
then, we said,
You know, what
It's
you
should
gonna
have,
be doing
yo-yo,
this. We
it's gonna
should be doing
yo-yo, and
this.
you're gonna do it again.
well, what you
You
have
do
to.
know that next year that you'll spend,
What you should cringe at is the idea that Frontier increased
Right.
our assessment by 18%.
no,
And
that's,
that's the reason why we're you
It isn't the
know,
only
faced
reason.
with it. Well, sure it is.
past everything at town meeting. That's not the only reason.
Yeah.
So that's a
But
big
here's,
piece.
but here's,
Budgets.
here's the other thing though, just think about this. Next year's budget, we'll start where we are, right? Unless we are planning to cut budgets, which I don't see any huge cut. Which will then re-add this amount back in, plus any increase on top of that. So you do know that if you're 10% this year and you cut it down to 5,
Well,
next year you're gonna be up to,
No, we'd be counting on our school formula to be less skewed to
those kids
Conway.
didn't go away. Those
Oh,
kids are still in the
yeah.
5-year average. That bump's not going anywhere that amount that you voted for school is gonna stay and possibly go up if the school budget goes up at all. You're not
But the
gonna,
formula is an oddball, it was an odd year
it has
for
to
that
do with
formula.
school enrollment.
Okay,
And so unless you think that there's some change in the enrollment, and I haven't seen that in the numbers,
it's not just the school enrollment, there's a lot of
that's
other
why the
things that
percentage
flow
that we
into
had
that.
to pay went up.
We're
Yes,
not-
yes,
we're
it
not
is the
gonna-
school.
We're not gonna solve this problem
No,
tonight.
no, but I just want you to understand that because the percentage went up, that's why our bill went up. Not because, the school didn't raise their budget 18%. The
But
school,
some-
the school raised their budget, was it the end, 3.5?
Yes, but take a good look at
But
those
we
numbers,
went up,
Andrew.
but we went up in terms of the number of kids we have, so our percentage of that 3.5 plus the budget went up. That's why we went up 18%.
Okay, but I don't
Unless
think
those
it
kids
was-
all move out of town,
Right.
that's not changing next year.
Okay, but again, I don't know that formula enough, but I know that it's not straightforward.
Nobody
I know
knows that formula.
What's it? I know that you could probably look at some of those towns, they have almost the same enrollment, and they maybe went down in their assessment because the formula worked in their favor, just like we were the year before.
It's not, it has a lot to do with your enrollment.
But it was, I
Okay.
say,
Any other questions on the warrant?
I just have one comment about just one last comment on the 150. I understand that the school budget went up the 18%, but if you look at what we turned back from our own budget last year, if you exclude the town admin position because it was vacant, and that was from free cash anyway, so you just bump that out of there, we put back like $210,000, which is more than what you're planning on throwing at the tax rate. So perhaps during, and I know it's hard to know in March where you're gonna end up in June. I get it, I do this every year, we start our budget in January.
Mhm.
It's almost impossible. But, you know, tightening up that will help on the other side as well.
Mhm.
And we all know that, I mean, that's, you know, common sense, that is a better plan than the 150 at the tax rate.
Well, you need to be prepared to continue to do this, because what's gonna happen is this tax rate will continue to
People can't
go up.
bear
and-
the increase.
Well, you're gonna catch up with yourself. You can put the 150 on, it's an artificial lowering, and then next year you'll catch back up, and then you'll see another number, and you'll go, oh my God, and you'll wanna do it again. And it becomes a cyclical problem.
Very slippery slope.
Yeah, we've done it once now, we're seeing the result of to some extent of doing that, and if we do it again, we're gonna see the result again in another year.
As you said,
That's all
our
I'm saying.
accountant, like your accountants all say, you don't want to be doing this because again, it's not.
I personally have never seen a town do it.
To say, let's just bring it to
Oh.
the taxpayers to vote, we all know that they're gonna vote yes, I mean, that is what it is. But
Well-
no one's gonna say, no, I don't want you to decrease my taxes, so,
Well,
that's just, that's where I'm.
I guess my question is, when does it end?
Right.
what I hear you folks saying, and this is relevant, because you folks should hear this, is that you're presuming that the average town taxpayer would rather have a more or less smoothed amount because because it's easier for them to budget that than to be down one year and up another year and who knows what the following year. This is
That would be why the
if you
state
help me-
voted in the 2.5 prop, is so that
Towns
you
couldn't do that.
couldn't do that yo-yo up
Well-
and down. The 2.5 prop is to just kind of keep everybody on a
Trying to keep
steady.
you.
Well, but
That
it
is
turns out that
variable.
it's a steady up is what it turns out.
Oh, sure,
anyway.
2.5 is always an increase.
Well, yeah, but what they, so.
But we typically haven't been at our levy limit from, I don't know where we are now, but in
No,
the
we're-
past,
no,
we were
we're-
well under our levy
Yeah,
limit.
yeah.
So we've never really taxed out to the max that you can,
Well-
which is a good, healthy way to do things.
Well, we had healthy growth here for some years and that helped.
Yeah.
We don't have that these years and so, and I hear what you're saying. And
So here's another thought, just throwing this in quick, I know John wants to get going here, but the 150, maybe it makes sense to throw it in a stabilization account for the highway garage.
Well-
I mean,
That's what I
that's
would,
taxpayer money that we're gonna have to ask for over here.
Right.
If we push it
Well,
over there.
that's the idea of a
then we get
stabilization
away.
account, because what's
Right.
gonna happen is if you vote the highway garage, you're gonna debt exclude it, which means you're gonna put it on top of the levy,
Right.
which means the taxes will go up to pay for that. So the more you can fund of that, the lower
Right.
you will actually keep
So
taxes when you build
It
them.
might make more
Highway
sense to
garage.
throw that over to stabilization, and hopefully that'll keep us under the
And
tax
that's why my
levy that-
recommendation would
Okay,
be you
well,
do it at the end of the
you
year.
guys can get together in the
Yep,
finance
I'll hash it out.
committee and
Thank you.
come back to it.
Thank you, folks.
This is
Thanks,
Tom.
guys.
This is Tom.
Great having you number cruncher around, I'll tell you.
Like crunching.
And then
Tom, next item on the agenda is the revised designer selection
Okay,
procedure.
have a good night.
All right, take care.
Thanks, Ron, thanks for coming.
Thanks, Andrea.
Yes, when we,
Thanks, Andrea. Thanks, Liz.
Night, gentlemen.
and my apologies for not getting that draft warrant to you. in
That's
time.
all right. We had the articles, we just haven't seen them really like that.
Yeah, they're quick on their feet, that's what we like about you guys.
We weren't unprepared. I put my face in.
Night.
Hey Liz, nice having you on the finance committee.
Yeah, thanks.
The last time that the town came up with the designer selection procedures was for the streetscape. The procedures were geared specifically toward the streetscape, and these new proposed procedures are almost verbatim from the state website and would take into account any future designer selection that we would have to do. This is much more generic, much broader, and this is what we need to move forward with the designer for the town highway garage, and it would also work for any future public construction that we might have in mind, if the state doesn't change its template.
Okay, all right. I'll make a motion that we accept the revised designer selection procedure for the town garage and future projects as recommended by our town administrator, Tom Hutchison. Do I
I'll
have a
second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, let's see. We're gonna table our town support for Chapter 90 bond bills next on there. But we don't have to do anything on that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Next item is our new
If you want to
Table.
to send a letter.
Oh, that's right, November 20th is
Chapter
the
90.
deadline? for
Yeah, you
that?
could put a letter together for that, okay?
Would you be able to put
And
a
I'll-
letter in support?
And I'll come in and sign it.
There was general agreement.
Yes, there we go, general agreement to send a letter of support, and our chairman will come in and sign that letter to get it there before the 20th. The second one, you were just mentioning the next agenda item, I want to table that.
Right, we didn't get the information we
Yeah,
needed
a
on
couple
that.
of things I
Okay.
need before I present that.
Okay, I also want to table this Guilford Fund application till we get a little more information.
Yeah, the tax situation,
Yeah,
the
we need-
applicant,
Yeah,
that.
let's figure out.
The tax situation is okay, he's up to date in his payment plan. If you do table this, it will be very unlikely for him to be able to do sufficient work to avoid eviction, in my opinion. It doesn't mean that the whole amount is good, and I did mention that he should come this evening, and he's not here. So I will add that to my.
You know, the Board of Health has given him until the end of November, and that was as of August 30th, and he just submitted this application. And apparently the Board of Health is not going to give him any further extensions.
What further information would you like at the next meeting to consider this? If you, well, I haven't heard you to say that you want to consider it.
Well, you know,
Well, actually, we don't want to mention the person's name because this is probably not something that we should be mentioning names at a meeting.
you know, I was under the impression that this system failed years ago.
It did. I believe they had a Title V inspection 2 years ago, and the requirement when it fails is you have 2 years to fix it. And the person
So this has
has had 2
been
years
for
and
2 years to fix this, and he's coming to us at the 11th hour with a request that we should give him money to fix it.
correct.
Well, certainly the money should go to the actual people who fix it.
Right.
rather than
Yeah.
to the applicant.
Again, I feel like the situation for this request is kind of meets some criteria as far as income and so forth. But as trustees, I guess we have an obligation to either vote to accept this application or not. There's not really there's a time frame from the standpoint of the Board of Health putting pressure on this individual to get this done before November 20 or November something.
Well, supposedly the work's supposed to be completed by the 30th of November. We're now at the 4th of November, that's 26 days. I don't think they're gonna put a new septic system in 26 days.
Yes, and so even though there is some time of the essence situation here, I don't feel comfortable voting on this tonight. I guess one reason might be the 3 trustees are the 3 select board members. One of our select board members isn't here. I feel like this particular applicant, there's some issues to be looked at as far as the property itself and whether this is a good use of these funds to keep this property
Yeah, that's.
So there
keep this
could
property
be
going.
other criteria that you
Yeah.
would involve in the decision.
That's my sentiment too,
Mhm.
looking at the application. I'd really like to hear
Okay.
from members of the Board of Health on this. You know, if we were to okay this loan, they would need an extension anyway from the Board of Health, because right now they want to, the deadline is December 6th to appear in court on this matter. So they would need to give them an extension on this even if we pass this tonight, okay? So I'd like to hear from members of the Board of Health on this.
And it's not clear the nature of the work that would have to be done.
We need some more information. So let's see if we can get a couple of members of the Board of Health in next meeting to talk more about this. Was that agreed?
I think that's a good idea.
Okay. Okay, we have to approve the transmittal form for the permit application and payment for the transfer station permit. Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve and authorize the application for the transfer station permit renewal. Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, we also have an application for Community Innovation Challenge Grant that requires our signature.
That's for the fire.
This is for fire, okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'll make a motion that we accept approve this application. All in favor?
I'll second that.
Okay.
All in favor, aye.
Okay, Tom, you're up.
All right, some updates. For the town garage, the request for qualifications for known as project manager has gone to the Central Register for publication. And the request for proposals for designers will go soon, now that you've voted on a better designer selection procedure. The owner's project manager must be involved with the selection of a designer, but the preliminary advertising may be done early. For opening the Conway Bridge, Jim Moore has spoken with Helen Reed, who has agreed to participate, and Amanda Cantor, who's willing to drive Helen across the bridge in her buggy. Jim suggested contacting Channel 22 and WGBY. Jim settled on early afternoon Sunday, November 17th, with the 24th as a rain or snow date. Jim thought it would be a good idea to have a ribbon to cut as well. I'll look into getting some ribbon unless someone else would like to. Anyone with any ribbon connections here? No?
Take it away, Tom. Do the ribbon.
It's all set, Tom.
For committee news, I have sent out the notice for an all-committee, all-department meeting, November 20th at 7 p.m. in the gym at Town Hall. I left the format a bit looser than last year, but still with a welcome from the select board and then brief reports on their work over the last year, their present work and what they see as their work over the coming year, and ending with general discussion, comments, and questions. I also made sure everyone knew to invite other members of their committees, boards, or departments. The Franklin Regional Housing and Rehabilitation Authority has requested that Conway appoint one member of a 4-member Citizens Advisory Committee for the Community Development Block Grant. They would like this appointment to be made by the end of the month. They're also interested especially in getting a low to moderate income person on the committee. If you know of anyone, please let me know. I'll put it on the agenda for next time. I hope that we'll have someone to who's willing to do that. Some general news. I'm preparing to send out notices regarding annual licenses and permits. I have prepared letters to all license holders with forms outlining payments for each license or permit before asking the select board to vote on renewing the license. I think that's a better practice than I understand has happened in the past, where the board voted to approve the license before they were paid for. The town has received a grant of up to $500 for recycling and waste-related issues. I'm coordinating with the Board of Health on that, who submitted the grant, again, through the Solid Waste Management District.
Mm-hmm.
Finance Committee has asked that capital expenses for the next year be submitted by the first week in December. That's a month from now. I believe it is very important that the Select Board get a heads up about any proposed capital expenses from departments, committees, or commissions under your jurisdiction before such plans go to the Finance Committee. I also believe that Select Board operating budgets be approved before they go to the Finance Committee. This allows the Select Board to question and revise any proposals so that when the items do go to the Finance Committee, they are fully supported by the Select Board. I have asked for any capital items to be submitted by November 14th, that is in advance of the next Select Board meeting, so that I can schedule departmental meetings with you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Okay, any concerns of the selectmen?
None.
Okay. One thing we did skip higher up on the agenda was meetings attended by the select board members. I just want to mention that I am on the Capital Exploration Committee for Frontier Regional, and we will have a meeting tomorrow night to see if we can get through the mystery of both the way they put their budget together and the formula itself. So that should be interesting. Also in the mail, we got a letter from the Attorney General concerning Kathleen McKiernan's open meeting law complaint that we are currently reviewing. Also in the mail, we received a thank you note from Danielle Gordon and Henry Mulvey It reads, "Thank you so much for the money from the Guilford Trust Fund. Henry's van is now an enormous asset to him. We are very grateful. We will keep you posted on his progress." And they've sent us a picture of Henry with the new van. Looks great.
Excellent.
Glad we were able to help Henry and the Mulveys out with that.
Cool.
Okay. Anything else?
Nothing for me.
Bob, do you have anything for us now that you're here? Do you have a quick report on Comcast?
I didn't come for that, but
Well,
I certainly,
come on, give it to
certainly
us.
could.
Just in time, we're about to close out
I saw
shop.
your lights still on, you guys are working way too late.
You know, before we
You are working too late too.
before we adjourn, we want to hear about all the happy people up in the
A lot of
north,
happy people in
northwest
Northwest.
Announcements. by the way.
Announcements, okay. So I did have a different question, but, every now and then now I'm finding somebody who Comcast seems to have forgotten. So people call me up and they say, nobody's visited me. But pretty much everyone's been visited by a Comcast salesperson, or left a little door hanger and then they call up the salesperson, and lots of people. Tom Creek, remember Tom Creek at
Sure,
the end of
yeah,
Pine
yeah.
Hill Road?
Yeah.
They should have been hooked
They're
up
connected?
today, they think.
Oh, that's
No,
fantastic.
the guy's been there 3 or 4 times and they have to pull a really long cable through a conduit, and I think Tom Creek did it himself
He did.
to make it happen because Comcast was reluctant and couldn't seem to find somebody else to do it. So
I was right there with Tom, yeah.
Were you?
I wasn't physically there, I
Oh,
know
yeah.
all about it.
He sent me an email yesterday. So then the Comcast guy was supposed to come today. He thought it might actually happen, but, so they're ecstatic.
Good. So we've passed 110 houses.
I think Comcast tells me it's about 120.
Good. That's
No,
better.
I ended up with about 130 properties, but some of those are like empty cabins, you know.
Right, right.
You know,
So how many of those 120 have subscribed?
I
Do we
don't know yet.
Okay.
And I don't know whether Comcast will tell me, but I have a good relationship with one of the Comcast sales reps. And maybe I can get it from the sales rep.
I'd be very interested to know what percentage
I am too.
has actually subscribed.
Right.
I would think it would be very high.
Right. And what I'd really also like to know is if people aren't subscribing, why? And I would call them up and ask, you know, I mean, I'd love to know.
Yeah, I think that's important information for us.
Some people, I'll say like me, aren't through with their 2-year HughesNet contract. HughesNet put a new satellite up about a year ago, and many people switched to it, but in doing that, you started your 2-year contract
All
over again. And they may have done that on purpose, I don't know, who knows, you know, I don't. But, so Comcast will help you eat that contract, they'll help pay that.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So another bit of information for you is I still have the map you gave me.
That's one of the things I wanted to ask
It's
about.
been on my desk to give to you.
So,
What I did with that is
and this is actually the question I came to talk about.
Yeah.
So, but,
Yeah, let me just finish. So I basically worked with the FCAT folks, and so what they're doing is they're doing a new map for us. They're doing what I took from your map. I did it, you know, with a little marker onto a map. And then I took the information from the contract with all the telephone poles, and then I went out and checked all the phones, and then I did that myself. So they're now doing one map for all of Conway's coverage for Comcast, which then we'll bring for you and for us
Great,
and so
great.
forth. So they said they'll get that done hopefully in about a week.
Great.
And I'll give you your.
Great.
So everybody's basically happy that has gotten Comcast so far up in your neighborhood?
well, I haven't gotten hate mail from Southern Conway lately, but I'm not gonna say they're happy.
Well, I'm not
There are
talking-
angry people down there.
Yes.
We're on film.
Let's-
Let's
let's-
talk
I
about the happy
understand, and, you
people.
know, I'm
Let's
not,
just talk about
no secrets here.
your neighborhood,
Why don't I put this on the agenda for next time?
which,
Here's Bob's report.
I could come, but I'm done,
Yeah.
although, all I wanted
Would
to
you
ask
think
about was, I
yeah.
knew you were going to go visit FERCog.
Mhm.
At Wired West, I'm hearing lots of talk about Wired West kind of being in the midst of how to work with Comcast and to get all these towns wired. And when I talk with Glenn Cardinal up in Buckland, it sounds like Glenn is doing another effort of independently negotiating with Comcast.
Bob, would you like to be on the agenda for next year?
I could, but I don't have anything specific.
Well, okay.
What I was really wondering was, what FERCog is up to? And I would have to get that from you. I mean, that's for my own information.
Not necessarily from me directly, but what I do know is obviously.
I'll put this on the agenda for next year.
I think you guys are done.
Yeah, well.
That's fine,
Yeah,
that's fine.
but yeah, we could talk more about that.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.